Are you ever just on Google Maps and you suddenly stumble upon something interesting? It could be a new neighborhood in a city you've been keeping an eye on, or maybe just scouring the best beaches on the Oregon coast. Well, the idea for this video came from a simple observation I made while looking over the city of San Antonio randomly on Google Maps, and I just couldn't not make a video about this topic. Look at how many parking lots there are on Google Maps in downtown San Antonio in just this one single frame. Yeah, that's one too many dings. And all of these are, sadly, not only killing the city of San Antonio, but actively preventing it from becoming great. If you're new to the channel, this is Fourth Place, your place to learn about US geography, urbanism, transportation, and city planning. Take a look at this map highlighting all of the above ground parking lots and parking structures in downtown San Antonio. Bear in mind that this map doesn't even include underground parking or parking incorporated in a building with other uses, such as retail, office, or residential. This is strictly stare at it all day surface parking. More than a quarter of downtown San Antonio, 29% to be exact, is dedicated to parking lots and garages, more than any other major city in the US. Make no mistake, San Antonio is populous. The city alone has over 1.5 million people in it, making it the 7th largest city in the US and the fastest growing in the top 10. So people want to move here. But do people have anywhere to move that isn't contributing to the ever-expanding sprawl made infamous by Sunbelt cities? Well, it doesn't look too good. First, let's compare the city's parking data with the city's extensive public transit data, compiling and comparing ridership on light rail, streetcar, tram, and commuter rail with the average capacity of the city's parking structures. To begin with, we'll need to take a look at the city's extensive light rail network, shown here. Oh. That's right. America's 7th biggest city doesn't even have any light rail or streetcar or tram or commuter rail. The only non-car public transit network in the city is a singular cross-country Amtrak stop. Well, that's a huge, glaring problem. And paradoxically, San Antonio had the sharpest population growth in the top 50 most populous US cities from the 2020 census to today's estimate. San Antonio is hindering its future prosperity for short-term gains. In the short term, many people will move to San Antonio, attracted by the sprawl, having to commute into downtown or downtown-adjacent areas, and spending hours of their life in a car, telling themselves that it is just the way it is. And when they realize that the suburban sprawl is fruitless, they'll move to Austin or Dallas or somewhere else in the state that's urbanizing, even just slightly more than San Antonio. Now, of course, San Antonio could be working towards long-term gains, and taking the available land in the city, rezoning it for multi-use, bringing people into its core, full of culture and history, and building up from there. The city has great bones. I mean, this is a city that was founded in 1718, hundreds of years before Dallas or Houston, making it the oldest municipality in Texas. Its center city grid is more similar to other pre-Revolutionary War cities like Boston or Trenton than it is similar to Phoenix or Salt Lake City, cities that also have an egregious amount of core parking. Nobody wants to build up neighborhoods where the walk score is in the single digits, so there's no effort to densify mixed use or transit-oriented development, a concept which is non-existent in the city of San Antonio. Put plainly, the excessive amount of parking in downtown San Antonio is detrimental because it leads to inefficient land use, promotes car dependency, and undermines efforts to create a vibrant, walkable urban environment. Vast areas dedicated to parking lots and garages reduce the land available for green spaces, public amenities, and mixed-use developments that can enhance the quality of urban life. This is what's so confusing to us urbanists when looking at the city of San Antonio. Whether we like it or not, suburbs exist, and probably aren't going anywhere anytime soon. But downtown cores are supposed to be just that, dense urban cores. But when many of the buildings in your underwhelming skyline are of parking structures, is the area really for business and commerce, or just for people to park their cars during their hotel stay? With the Ripley's Believe It or Not, Mirror Mazes, and Downtown Mall Aquarium and Legoland Center, I'm convinced at this point that this is just a city center built for tourists. And yes, that includes the Riverwalk. But hey, at least they have a Rainforest Cafe, a Hard Rock Cafe, and a Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. It's no surprise this city turned this place into a gimmick. Downtown San Antonio's extensive parking infrastructure developed over time due to a combination of historical and economic urban planning factors. From its incorporation, the city evolved as a central hub in the Southwest, attracting businesses, businesses, tourists, and residents. This growth coincided with, you guessed it, the corporate-led push for automobiles, which led to an increased demand for parking. As the downtown area became a vibrant retail and business center during the early to mid-20th century, the demand for accessible parking grew significantly. With more people driving into the city for work, shopping, and tourism, surface parking lots were seen by city officials as essential to accommodate the influx of vehicles, and although it was incredibly short-sighted, you almost can't blame them for it. Keyword almost. San Antonio's economy heavily relies on tourism, but that doesn't necessarily necessitate the building of so many parking facilities either. Cities like Boston, New York, and Seattle are all powerhouses for tourism, yet they don't have nearly the same problem. Why? Well, when you're a big city with an abundance of public transportation, tourists will use it. But when you're a city in desperate need for public transportation, tourists will adapt and rent and park cars. It really is a self-inflicted wound. It's clear that urban planning decisions over the decades have shaped the parking landscape in downtown San Antonio. Like many Sunbelt cities, San Antonio once operated an electric streetcar system, which ran from 1890 until 1933. Originally horse-drawn before transitioning to electric, these streetcars provided an efficient and reliable means of transport, helping to shape the growth and development of San Antonio in the early 20th century. At its peak, the system had numerous lines crisscrossing the city, facilitating easy access to various neighborhoods and commercial areas. However, with the rise of automobile ownership, the electric streetcar system saw a decline in ridership. Ultimately, the last line ceased operation in 1933, marking the end of an era for San Antonio's urban transit history. It's crazy to think how so many of these highway-filled cities used to have such thorough electric rail and streetcar networks. What would cities like Detroit, Los Angeles, and San Antonio look like today if the car lobby never got its way back in the 40s and 50s? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. There's a clear divide between San Antonio and cities with healthy public transportation when it comes to the land taken up strictly for parking. This chart from parkingreform.org, who calculated a parking score for the US's biggest cities, is highly informative for comparison purposes. Their parking score measures how a city's parking lot and use compares to other cities of a similar urbanized area, population, and city type. The parking score for core cities was created by taking the difference between a city's parking percentage and the median parking percentage of the 10 urbanized areas closest in population to the urbanized area of a city being scored. Stay with me here. The difference was then converted into a number between 1 and 100. San Antonio earned an 86. Looking at the top 5 and bottom 5 cities, one thing is clear. These cities are easy to visit, easy to pedestrianize, with comparably great infrastructure and plenty of core public transit access. And these cities just fail on nearly all of these metrics. Hard and expensive to get around without a car, they lack a coherent urban fabric connecting their cultural landmarks, historic points, neighborhoods, and have little to no urban flow. And yeah, a skyline littered with parking garages. Ever since San Antonio's discontinuation of their streetcar system and prioritization of urban spaces for cars, the city's transportation policies have heavily favored car-centric development. Take a stroll through most of downtown San Antonio. Much of downtown San Antonio now looks like this, absolutely dead. Less deceased, but still extremely oversaturated with parking lots and structures, is San Antonio's downtown-adjacent hip neighborhood called the Pearl District, or sometimes just the Pearl to locals. It's a revitalized historic district centered around a former Pearl brewery. It's flanked by 2 major highways to the north, south, and east, and by the San Antonio River to the west, so space is limited and important here. Let's see how the redevelopment made the most of this limited space. Right. Definitely making great use of space here, San Antonio. I mean, there are so many up-and-coming downtown-adjacent cultural and historic neighborhoods that make a point of not having much of any parking projects. Wynwood, Miami, Capitol Hill, Seattle, Beacon Hill, Boston. The list goes on and on and on. Hell, even the Pearl District's counterpart in Portland, Oregon, is full of light rail and little to no above-ground parking projects at all. I just hope the city doesn't make the same mistake with its up-and-coming neighborhood of Southtown/King William. But so far, it doesn't look too great. This area should already be full of commerce and extremely attractive with its available retail, restaurant, and commercial space, but landlords are weary. There's really no ongoing dense urban development east of the San Antonio River here, and so businesses are reluctant to invest, and the city really isn't doing anything to help either. It's clear that San Antonio's prioritization of parking lots and structures has significantly hindered its urban fabric and urbanization of its downtown area. By dedicating vast amounts of prime real estate to parking, the city has has reduced the availability of space for housing, businesses, and public amenities, which are crucial to the creation and sustainability of a vibrant, walkable urban environment. This car-centric approach has led to yet another Sunbelt city with a fragmented urban landscape with less foot traffic, straight-up stifling opportunities for community interaction and local economic activity. As a result, the potential for much of downtown San Antonio to thrive has been undermined by its emphasis on parking infrastructure. Will America's largest city without light rail continue down the path of car dependency, or will they finally begin to invest in their future? Well, only time will tell, but with no official plans, let alone active construction of light rail as of July 2024, the future doesn't look too bright for this Sunbelt city. I'll see you next week from 4th place.